This is Metro Week. Our top story: classes get underway at the University of Arizona. We'll look at enrollment projections and tuition, and speak with the student leader. Then we review the week's news with our Journalists Roundtable.
I'm Lorraine Rivera, in for Andrea Kelly. Classes start Monday at the University of Arizona, and nearly 40,000 are expected to enroll, including an estimated 8,000 freshmen. Those new students will be guaranteed the same tuition level for 4 years. Here's Vanessa Barchfield's look at the U of A by the numbers.
The University of Arizona is gearing up for the 2014-2015 academic year. Students spent the past week moving into dorms and going through orientation, and on Monday, classes get underway. As usual, this semester opens with thousands of new students on campus. The freshman class is the largest in the school's history at just under 8,000. And also, like most years, the price of studying at the U of A has gone up. Returning in-state students will see a 2% hike in their tuition this year over last. Out-of-state tuition is up 5%. The cost of studying at the U of A has risen sharply over the past decade. 10 years ago, in-state undergrads paid just under $4,000 for the academic year. Tuition and mandatory fees are now more than 2.5 times that. In-state tuition for graduate students has increased at a similar rate. Though for the second year in a row, the U of A's law school slashed out-of-state tuition sharply. It's down nearly $10,000 for the year. In response to requests both from students and their families and from the Arizona Board of Regents for more cost predictability, the U of A has introduced a new stabilized tuition plan. Incoming freshmen will pay a premium this year. Their tuition bills will be 6% higher for in-state and 9% higher for out-of-state than what students paid last year. Those rates will be unchanged for 4 years, though fees may go up. The new tuition rate is mandatory for freshmen. Returning students may opt in. Although this year the stabilized rate is only available to undergrads, university officials have said they're considering introducing a similar scheme for graduate students in the coming years.
Now in the studio with me is Isaac Ortega, the U of A student body president. Isaac is also a member of the advisory board here at Arizona Public Media. Isaac, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Let's start off with, you're a local boy from Pueblo High School here in Tucson.
Yep, I'm from Tucson, Arizona. I've been born and raised here.
What was it? What led to your decision to come to the university?
You know what? I think so. My parents always asked two things of me. Behave as well as you possibly can behave, and get good grades and go to college. And that's never really changed. And I remember watching the 1997 national championship when I was just a little kid, and I always kind of knew I'd come to U of A. It wasn't really a question.
A great school. I saw a quote that you said it's the best school on earth, and that's a good statement to make as the student body president. You were elected last year. What are some of your primary goals coming into this semester? It's a big class this year. It
definitely is. We have a lot more freshmen than we ever had before. I think the enrollment total, including transfer students and freshmen, has at 9,800 for this incoming class, which is huge, the biggest we ever had. And we really want to engage these students on multiple levels. We want them to be civically engaged and really go out there and vote for this midterm election, because we kind of realize, it's not as sexy to vote for, midterms as it is, for a president of the United States or anything like that, but it really does affect their lives here. If you're an incoming freshman for the 4 years that you're at the university, and if you're graduating and planning to stay in Arizona, it's something really huge to consider in the important issues that there are. So we're really trying to get them out there and educated and excited to vote. The education piece, we have a gubernatorial forum planned for September 21st. We're really excited for that. And it's open to the public, free to everyone, so Tucson, feel free to attend. Other than that, we really want to get them excited. So as soon as voting starts, we actually have a welcome back concert to kick it off. And I'm not too sure if I'm allowed to say who the headliner is yet, but we're really, really excited, and it's actually a bigger name than we've had in the past. And we really want to give T-shirts out, get people really excited, and get these students out to the polls.
That's a really tough challenge, though. A lot of these students are 18. It's their first time away from home. Some of these students may have been moving in from another state, another county. What are those efforts like in having them register to vote as voters in Pima County? So how do you do that on behalf of ASUA?
Well, we're really kind of assembling a small army. It's just a bunch of students that really do care about this issue, about getting people or students out there to vote and voicing basically what you think about who the leaders in our state should be. So we have a small army of people, and they're briefed on the rules, and we're really working with the university to hopefully get it nice and clear cut on their actual student center. So when they sign up for classes, that program they use for all of that will have, the rules in place and saying, make sure you know that once you register here in Arizona and Pima County, you're kind of letting go of some other things from the state you were or the county you were before, and then giving them all information they need to actually register.
On a much more local scale, though, when you were elected, there were about 40,000 or so students here, and maybe 5,000 participated in voting for ASUA offices. So moving forward, you have a big task to really, hopefully, maybe even double that number.
Yeah, definitely. I would love to double that number. I think it's important for the students to know exactly who's voicing their opinions when it comes to, those big meetings at the big tables with the university administration and all of that. We had a really great turnout this year. We had some amazing candidates that both I ran against and the other positions in ASUA as well. And we actually had really high numbers, but we broke records, but we really do want to break more records this next year.
And so moving forward, talking about being a voice for the students, this year something a little different than what they've seen in the past. Tuition is now a set number and will be hopefully for the next 4 years, well, it takes for most students to get their undergrad degree.
Yeah, so that is a guaranteed tuition program, and it's something that actually came directly out of our office and was a great initiative by the past president, Morgan Abraham. And he worked with our administration and went from kind of an idea to region approval in about 4 months. And that was with the help of our wonderful leadership at the university. And what it really does is lock in or guarantee a price for the incoming freshman class for those 4 years. So similar to NAU's pledge program. So every year we still will be kind of, battling to see exactly what the increase is for the next incoming class. But the great thing it does is it provides families and these students like peace of mind of what they're going to be paying over the 4 years that they're here.
And you were hearing on behalf of ASUA, because you were the treasurer, hearing firsthand from students and their parents saying that college is just not affordable, and this may be something we have to put on the back burner purely for financial reasons.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a problem, especially in the last 6 or 7 years, in our economic downturn. Since then, tuition has doubled and has even gone higher than that now. And we always have that at the forefront of our minds when we talk about what's important to fund in the university, because we understand that there is definitely those gaps that need to be filled. But we really want to make sure that our student government, or myself and everyone else there, it voices that these are initiatives that students want to see. Whether it be smaller class sizes or more resources on campus or whatever it may be. If we do need to fill in the gap, put the cost on the shoulders of students, that at least they're getting their bang for their buck.
You're a senior, you represent the student body, you pay tuition just like everyone else.
Yes.
How do you pay for college tuition?
It's been tough, definitely. So, I gotten a lot of help from my parents, which I'm really grateful for. But even then, I've had to take out loans, and I've had a part-time job the entire time I've been here. So I kind of get what it's like. And to be honest, that's kind of the real reason why I ran in the first place, is because I understand what it's like to be that kind of student, and know what it's like to be a little bit more difficult to pay for your college degree. And all that goes along with it, the more time commitment it takes to have a job and everything along those lines.
A lot to balance for a student, of course, with your role in ASUA, having a part-time job, but there are a lot of things that happen socially on this campus that make it a very unique place. Football season ready to start up here. Talk about that overall pitch to students who are maybe watching this, students like yourself down at Pueblo High School who are thinking, maybe I should go to the U of A. It looks like a fun place.
It definitely is a fun place. You would never imagine it. Or I never did when I graduated, but the university is such a special place. It's like almost a city within a city, and the vibe you have across campus, I don't know exactly what it is, and you can't really explain it sometimes, but people are excited to be here. Everyone's driven, everybody wants to succeed and do well, and I think that creates this really great vibe. And this is, like I said before, probably the greatest university on earth. I believe so, and the actual football game and the spirit that we have is just kind of a microcosm of all of that. And for all the students who are watching and everything, I really hope that you get your Zona Zoo pass, you go out there, you go to the game, and you stay the entire game, because it's something special to see our cats go out there and really do some damage.
So you're president, we've just got a little bit of time left. What is your biggest hope and goal for this upcoming school year?
I really want to make sure that we sustain our voices where it really counts, whether it be on the state level, electing our leaders, whether it be on our local level and getting together people from across campuses, which is something else that we're trying differently, or whether it be at the big discussions when talking about tuition increases or exactly where that money should go. If we could sustain that and actually be heard more than we have in the past, and actually taking that a step further and actually making it count, I think that is what my goal is.
Okay, Isaac Ortega, the president of Arizona Student Association here at the University of Arizona. Thank you for your time. We should also mention you're a member of our Community Advisory Board here at Arizona Public Media. Okay, Isaac, good luck to you this school year.
All right, thank you.
Join me for Arizona Week as we take a look at the U.S. war on drugs.
No one's talking about substance abuse, about drug trafficking in the United States. It's just going to get worse, and it's going to come to a trauma within the United States.
And we're back with our Journalist Roundtable. Joining me are Dylan Smith of TucsonSentinel.com, Thelma Grimes of Tucson Local Media, and Vanessa Barchfield, my colleague here at Arizona Public Media. Thank you all for being here. Vanessa, let's get started with you. These students are graduating and stepping right into debt in many cases, not all. How much are we talking?
So the average for Arizona students is about $21,000 of student debt when they exit. And on a national scale, actually, that's not that bad. The national average is about $30,000 of debt. Nationally, about 70% of college seniors have debt. About 54% of Arizonan college seniors have debt. So we're really not doing that badly. Of course, you start your life with $21,000 sort of in the red already. That can be pretty daunting. But I think it's generally still an investment that's worth making.
And you said Arizona ranks on a certain level. How much so?
Yeah, so Arizona is 47th nationally for student debt. So it's partly it's because most of Arizona's colleges are public and lower cost. Even though the costs have gone up significantly, it's significantly less than going to a private college, of course.
Is there anything to the notion that students are being priced out of college, that they're not attending? The student body is still growing.
Of course, yeah.
Are there kids who can't go to school because it's gotten so expensive?
Of course, for sure. Many students find, either choose that they don't want to go into that sort of debt, and so they're foregoing college altogether. But as we see, the incoming freshman class gets bigger every year. They've hit a record this year. The argument that it's substantially blocking kids from going to college, I wouldn't say is necessarily valid.
It's just making it more challenging, Thelma.
Kind of drawing on Dylan's question, though, also as these students start going to school, start mounting the debt, start seeing what college is like, are the dropout rates are also affiliated with how much debt they are accruing and them going, maybe this isn't worth it after all?
I think that the danger is for students who start college, start accruing debt, and then drop out. How they pay for that, because of course then their chances for earning are less, of course, if they don't have a college degree. So that's a danger for sure.
Yeah, I think we can all agree it's tough when you graduate and you want to start your life, but you do have that burden on your shoulders that sometimes your career helps pay for, other times it doesn't.
With these fixed fees, that might also help that, though, as well. With freshman class going, I can stick with this tuition rate all the way through now.
Yeah, so the tuition is stable for 4 years, guaranteed for 4 years. The fees, on the other hand, can fluctuate. But it'll definitely give students and their families more predictability and be able to plan better.
I think here in southern Arizona, we're all starting to see more people move into the Tucson area, all the students coming into town. Just seen a lot of that even downtown along University Boulevard. Dylan, that's a huge economic boon for this community to suddenly see these thousands of students here.
Indeed. There are so many people who've been going downtown even before the students came back with the start of the school year that they are, for this weekend as an experiment, blocking off the southbound lane of the 4th Avenue underpass because it's just gotten so crowded. There's gridlock and people aren't even able to drive through.
And Thelma, in this week, you've done some reporting on the sheer number of housing opportunities now available in downtown, meeting toward the university area.
Yeah, we took an in-depth look at apartment. You've got 7,000 students that live on campus. Where are all the other students living? And there's a lot more apartment choices for students nowadays, especially high-end apartments where you get people coming and putting $30,000 in debt out of state. They also have the money to live higher. So they've got some higher end apartments, and then they also have the nightlife within a walk away. Campus is a walk away. So a lot of that has grown here where students have their choice of housing now.
How much are we talking for some of these apartments? And we've seen some of these high rises have really nice amenities like swimming pools on the 12th floor.
Right.
That can't come very affordable.
That can go as much as $1,200 a month for students, and they say they are filling up. Some have a few, 80 units left. When you're closer to campus, you're filling up faster, but a lot of the apartment privately owned developers say they're filling up already.
And we should also note that residence life here on the University of Arizona campus, they're at max capacity. Resident assistants are bunking with students. There's also a waiting list. How does that factor into their overall payment plan, though? And Vanessa, you may be able to know this talking with students. Being able to factor all these things, your housing, your books, your tuition, and then social, and what about food?
Yeah, I mean, it wants to eat, really. It requires planning, and I think students come prepared for that. I think that they've discussed it with their families. They know how much they're dealing with. They get jobs. They know how much their parents are able to support them. So a lot of planning happening.
Yeah, something new they may see is finally the streetcar is up and running here. And the hope is that will help bring traffic into campus, eliminate some of the traffic woes that we've had. Dylan, so far, is that a good start, you think, for this school year?
Well, with school not back in session, it's a little hard to tell what sort of impact on streetcar ridership that the students will have. There's the deal where they can ride for, I believe it's like the first month for free by signing up for a card. And that'll, probably encourage a lot of them to start doing it. Whether they'll keep doing it once they have to pay for it is another question.
And there's also the question of, will you see maybe a population that would normally travel into downtown suddenly say, well, I'm going to hop onto the Sunlink and ride into downtown. We were talking that there are new bars and restaurants all over. Thelma?
I think it's going to be interesting to see how the students impact all these bars that have opened since the streetcar came. All these are coming soon, and it'll be interesting to see the economic value in 6 months to a year that the students had on it. It's 40,000 students, and how is that going to affect downtown, especially with the new streetcar?
It's going to take a while to judge. Yeah. Streetcar ridership
Absolutely.
has been generally on track with what the projections were, but we have to see over time exactly how that plays out and how much revenue actually comes in to support operations of the streetcar.
I think it'll be really interesting to see how the streetcar encourages development downtown, sort of further west. You really, sort of anecdotally, there is a divide between the area around sort of Congress and Hotel Congress, and then the further west you get until you get to the Mercado. So I wonder how much that access is going to spur development down there.
What about retail as well? We've seen some of these high rises near campus that offer some boutique shops on the bottom floors. I mean, that has to be a component of this, Thelma.
Yeah, I think a lot of that's going to come in as it goes forward. Like she said, is it going to continue to develop? Are students going to latch onto this idea? And then I think more business will come with it.
The hope is that this is a city within a city, just like Isaac, the president, said earlier, so that you come here, mom and dad drop you off, and the hope is you stay here. There's everything that you need right in this location. Vanessa, you touched on this just a bit, that development just west of downtown area. This week we had some news with Rio Nuevo and what the future is there with development. Dylan, we're seeing that one developer wants to build a hotel, apartments, museums, a huge space, but not exactly anytime soon.
Oh, it's going to take a while to really refine these plans, and Rio Nuevo hasn't exactly picked who is going to be the developer of that plot right next to the courthouse and the interstate on that wedge of land. And given the way things have gone through this procurement process, it's quite possible that there are going to be some lawsuits flying back and forth that might delay it even further.
What makes you say that?
Well, there was a rule that they had invented for themselves that, as part of their process, that the board members for Rio Nuevo were not supposed to discuss with each other which of the competing proposals were better. And during a meeting, one of the board members announced which one was his favorite, and that's a potential problem for them.
Well, the interesting with that is the board member Moore went on to give him a purpose, give developer Eleanor Norville a perfect score. And so that gave him a huge advantage once the final decision came down.
And gave the other proposal a very, very low score.
Absolutely. So that just kind of fixed it, where this was a system set up to make it fair, and yet this kind of right away took away that fairness. So now they're going to have to look at, redoing it and looking at that. So the lawsuits could hold up. If they don't negotiate well with Ellen Norville, that could hold the process up. So it could take even longer than they expect.
And we've been discussing, as a community, getting that plot developed for 2 decades now. So, another year is not exactly a shocking, possibility.
What's the overall impression, though, of the public, the community, who is saying, let's do something now because we do have Sunlink riding along through that downtown corridor. We do have students and their families moving into this area. I mean, there is a real need, Vanessa.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a wasted opportunity if we wait another year to develop the land at all. I was wondering, actually, why Moore made that statement. Do you have any idea? Was he unclear on the rules?
I don't know.
I think he was just clear on what he wanted.
Yes.
So we'll continue to see this play out, but I think there is a lot of development happening in downtown. It would be nice to have that additional facility there for people to enjoy.
But you ask, why and why? Rio Nuevo has been a problem for years, and this was supposed to be getting them back on track. It's, a system that was fair, something that could get things moving forward, and here we are again at a standstill.
Okay, and again, 2015, after waiting for so long, is not that far away, but again, still a year away. Some other news that we saw come out this week, taxes going up in Pima County. Dylan, explain what this means, because for some people it means your taxes will go up in the county. For others it means that they may drop just because you've already been paying more.
Well, for most people, taxes will be going up, property taxes. I think on average for your average $150,000 home, you're going to be seeing about another $100 tacked onto your tax bill. But it's kind of complex. There are 93, I believe, different taxing districts throughout Pima County. It's not just Pima County itself. It's the school districts and the fire districts and water districts and a whole plethora of different governmental bodies that, from almost all of them this year, raised taxes, including the county itself and most of the school districts. In the city of South Tucson, people are going to see a rather dramatic decrease in their tax bills because they had to get rid of a tax that they had illegally enacted a few years ago.
Okay, and Thelma, you were saying for some of these people in fire districts that are areas more prone, that's why their taxes are going up a bit more than others?
Like he brought up, there's 93 total, fire districts, school districts. So in different areas, you're going to see higher amounts altogether with the property tax that was just enacted. So whereas South Tucson may be seeing the decrease, you're going to see higher increases north side, south side. North side, east side. You're going to see some of that with, like he brought up, increases from other entities other than Pima County.
And I think politically we saw, Dylan, that the Pima County Board of Supervisors, the Republicans on the board did not want the hike, but the Democrats eventually pushed for it.
Yeah, that was the board vote was something where they had to basically put the rubber stamp of approval on the increases for all of the other districts. So there wasn't much of a choice in that. Those districts had all raised their taxes, but it would require the Board of Supervisors to say, yes, we are doing this, and this is how the system's going to work this next year. So there was, a good deal of politicking going on around the Pima County property tax increase, but that was only a part of it. And I don't think Ray Carroll has ever voted for a tax increase ever in his entire tenure, so that vote was certainly not a surprise. And Allie Miller voting against it also was not surprising at all.
Okay, let's move on to city elections now. The timing of things could change. That vote came down this week, or that announcement, I should say.
Yeah, there was a court decision that basically, it didn't exactly toss out the law, but it made it impossible to enforce. There was a law a couple of years ago enacted by the state legislature that said Tucson needs to change its election cycle. We have city elections on sort of an off-year cycle in odd numbers, and it was to align all of the elections so they're all happening at once. But because Tucson is a charter city, it has the ability to control its own elections. And a judge sort of put the nix on the ability of the legislature to tell Tucson how to conduct its elections.
So Oro Valley and Marana came into compliance with that law this year, so it was interesting that Tucson still, hasn't. So.
Yeah.
What does a decision like this mean for voter turnout in city elections? Does that impact it? Does it hurt it at all?
I think it hurts it. I think it hurts it for several reasons. When it's an off year, you don't have your presidential race, your governor races, your big state races. Some people may not realize how those city elections impact your life even more directly, so they don't go vote as much.
There are two sides to that coin. It does, you have fewer people voting, but there may be more attention paid to the actual issues about the city, because in a presidential year, the city council race would be very far down the ballot, and not that many people would be really making considered decisions about what was going on. So there's two sides to that question as to how wise it is for us to have elections like that.
And Vanessa, we saw this in the interview with Isaac Ortega, the U of A president, ASUA president, I should say, talking about trying to increase that votership from students on campus and moving to a community and understanding they are now part of it. There's a big push that will happen on campus for that.
Oh yeah, and you see it already. I mean, of course, AZPM is on campus, so walking along the mall, you see that there are a lot of students active, trying to encourage other students to go out and vote. And I think we'll see more of that in the coming months.
Okay, and speaking of elections, we have a big primary coming up next week. The governor's race, pretty hotly contested, 6 Republicans in that primary. 3, I think, who have kind of appeared as early leading contenders. That would be Scott Smith, the former mayor of Mesa, Doug Ducey, the former Cold Stone Creamery CEO, and then, of course, Christine Jones from GoDaddy. Dylan, what are your thoughts there on that one? Are we going to see results that night, Tuesday?
I think it's going to be a pretty close race in that one. It's there's been an interesting dynamic to that race. Christine Jones put a lot of her own money into this race, and created some name recognition that really wasn't there. But there's been a tussle between her and Ducey, sort of for the to get the very conservative vote. And that might create some room for Scott Smith to come out on top, especially with the number of independents who are voting in this primary, which is more than ever before.
I think that's the interesting thing with Scott Smith, too. He's really worked his way up the polls. You had Christine Jones and Doug Ducey all over the ads, and you heard their name, but he ran on record, and then he's gotten the endorsements over the last few months. And it seems like he's worked his way up the polls, so I think that'll make it interesting come election night as well.
Here locally for us, CD2, Congressional District 2, a big race to watch, becoming very competitive. We've seen a lot of, it's been pretty fair and calm, though, and not so much political rhetoric and mudslinging, but it is part of an election process, unfortunately, Thelma.
I think this is a race it's getting national attention. They say this is one of the biggest races in the nation, and Martha McSally looks, clear to win the primary race, but, they've already started campaigning against, Ron Barber and her. They've traded some jabs in social media as well as in the ads, and I think it's going to be interesting to see where it goes, especially when you've got the Republican Party trying to get that independent vote this year.
And the independents, we've talked about that. The moderate vote for someone like, for example, Scott Smith going back to the governor's race, that could be a really good place for him to find himself very safe with, because some of the other candidates have just come out as maybe too far right for some of these independent voters.
The big tussle, especially in the governor's race and in that GOP primary, has been to, everyone wants to run with the flag of being the most conservative candidate, and almost all of them were competing on that. And, Scott Smith is by no means a liberal, but he's much more moderate than most of the other candidates, and has run his campaign in a way to position himself as a more moderate.
There seems to be some question as to whether or not we'll actually have answers come election night, that there could be a real close number here. Any indication at this point that we may not have an answer until maybe Wednesday or Thursday?
With the number of independents, it's really hard to tell which way that will swing, and whether, how many races we will see, a clear winner on election night, and how many will still be coming down to, the absentee ballots, and, I really don't know.
And just to be clear, you can win the election with more than 20% of the vote, or less than 20% of the vote. Okay, very interesting discussion and debate here. I think we can all agree that there is a lot more to see in the coming weeks, and especially with the school semester starting at the University of Arizona. Thank you all so much for your analysis. Thelma Grimes from Tucson Local Media, Vanessa Barchfield from Arizona Public Media, and of course Dylan Smith from TucsonSentinel.com. Thank you again. That's all for this week. For more on these and other stories, including those that air on NPR 89.1, go to our website. Also, next on Arizona Week, I'll speak with a filmmaker about his new movie on the notorious Mexican drug lord known as El Chapo. We'll be back in just a minute.